just the top of your hair. Yeah.
Barely.
Nope, you're good.
Over to the side.
Yeah, I just never put it back on.
Good evening. Welcome, UIC alumni. Thank you for being here tonight. Yes, woohoo. I am Karen Corman, and I have the absolute pleasure of running the University of Illinois at Chicago Alumni Association, our new alumni association. I'd like to just thank you all for being here. I also want to share with you that we have guests that are online that are joining us. We are live streaming, casting. You'll understand quickly, I don't understand any of this. But we have folks joining us online, so thank you to our alumni and friends that are joining us online this evening. We are excited to have this conversation with you tonight, so I wanted to just take a moment and do a couple of thank yous before we get started, and then I want to talk to you about the agenda, and then we will go forward with our program. So first, I'd like to thank Jeff Warner, who is our friend in Digital and Creative Services at UIC, who is helping us do all of this online engagement. And also, I'd like to thank the John Marshall Law School, which I'll talk about briefly, but thank you for coming into what will become our 16th college at UIC. They're very supportive of this event, so we are excited about that. And the staff at John Marshall has just been incredible, so we're very, very grateful to them. So let me review the agenda for this evening, and let me tell you, this is part one, so I'm going to literally whet your appetite. We're going to just do a little bit of an overview of what's going on at UIC today, give you a slight history, talk to you about your alumni association and how we got here. Then the main part of the program is to talk to our panelists, not to hear from me. So that will be the main focus. And then we're going to try and do some question and answer. You will see there are some cups with some cards. I don't have one in front of me. So feel free to write down questions as you think of them. We're doing this purposely to make sure we don't take up the entire evening with Q&A, but want to make sure we are answering your questions and want to make sure that we have the ability, if we don't do it publicly right now, that we get back to you with answers. So please feel free to write down any question about anything regarding UIC or the Alumni Association, because I can't answer all questions in the world, but we will certainly try. After this is over, and this should take about an hour-ish, we will go downstairs to the corner of State and Jackson, just right down the elevator bank, and we'll have a lovely cocktail reception there and heavy appetizers. So please enjoy your little boxes. It's like being on a journey with us, so we gave you a journey box like you're on an airplane. And we're giving you the healthy stuff now so you can then be ready for the maybe not so healthy stuff later. Okay, so because this is academia, we're going to start with a quiz. Can anybody tell me what our freshman class number was in 2018? How many students the total student body that we had on campus right now? Just take a guess. I hear 30,000, 37,000, 31. Some of you are reading. So 31,683, which is super exciting. And if you remember when Mayor Daley opened the campus, the idea was that we had 35,000 students, and we are on our way. UIC's enrollment has been going up and up and up. And if you've been paying attention to higher education in Illinois, that has not been happening to our other institutions. So we are very excited about our 37% increase. How many first-generation college students do we have, percentage-wise? I've heard 50, I've heard 20, 40. We're at 38% this is for the freshman class of 2018. And Pell Grant eligible, as you know, the mission at UIC is we want to make sure that we are serving all students. So Pell Grant, of course, is if your family makes under $40,000 a year. So what percentage of our freshman class was Pell Grant? 60? 30? 56%.
Wow.
So we're very, very proud of the fact that we are able to serve our community. And of course, UIC welcomed just 6,000 new graduates this past May. So we have 6,000 new members of our family. And we are still considered one of the most diverse campuses across the country, which we are also very, very proud of. So rankings, if you hear our chancellor talk, he'll talk a lot about momentum, and that is a word you'll hear us use this evening. We don't typically like to talk about rankings, but we do now, because the rankings are quite good. So keep reading about those rankings in the paper. These are just a couple of the ones that I chose to highlight. The second one, the Wall Street Journal, is one of my favorites, because we are number 7, just after this university. It's this private college called Harvard. They are number 6 on the list. And then there's this other university called Stanford, which is number 10. So we like that we're 7th on this list. And then again, lots of good news within Cranes and Forbes, and there's more Wall Street Journal. Again, welcome to the John Marshall Law School. On August 16th, they will become the 16th college at UIC, which we are incredibly excited about. We are excited to host this event here in their space, which will become UIC space this fall. Growth. So I don't know how people have been on campus lately. The building on the right, the Engineering Innovation Building, is the first academic building that is being built on campus since 1991. So it's great, we have a new building, but it is the first one in a long time. If you are familiar where University Hall is, across the street was a parking lot that was used primarily by faculty and staff. It is now the academic and residential complex. What is great about this building is the first floor will have retail, so they're putting in a Starbucks. So as you can imagine, people are very excited about the Starbucks coming. And then we will have some academic floors, and then there will be residential. This building will open in July, and we will be welcoming our first set of students to live in it this fall. If you are not familiar, UIC launched a master plan. There's a very long video, and there's a short video, neither of which we're going to show you tonight. But I wanted to point it out to you because if you have not been on campus, or if you have been on campus, please take 5 minutes and look at the short video for the master plan. I believe you'll be quite impressed. And we'd love to hear your feedback. It is really changing the look of UIC. Let's be honest, we still have brutalism as our architecture, but it is really opening up and trying to make UIC more present as part of the city, incorporating the L's a little bit differently and just the open flow. Just because I like to continue to do bragging statistics, you can certainly read this, but UIC's economic impact in fiscal year 17 was $7.6 billion to the Illinois economy. These are things to be proud of. We really are working hard within the state of Illinois to increase the economic impact within the state of Illinois. Let me spend half a second talking about the history of alumni relations at UIC. I do not want to focus on the past. This is really about the present and then the future. However, it's important to say, how did we get here? And what are we doing here? Why do we now have an alumni association? Didn't we have an alumni association? Wasn't I a member of that alumni association? These are the questions I think you'll be writing down. So we were part of the University of Illinois Alumni Association for many years. It's a 143-old-year organization, or it had been. We opened an office on the west side, which was primarily to service the College of Medicine in 1966. Obviously, you are aware, or I'm assuming, of our consolidation, and then we opened a UIC office for the UIAA. There was lots of organization changes and assessment, and in typical higher education, we had a task force that had a committee to look at what is the best model for alumni relations. That committee came back and said, this is not the right model. Our 3 universities that make up the University of Illinois system are very distinct, they're very different, the experiences are very different, and they should have alumni associations that support those different experiences. So we, in October of 2017, launched our first alumni association at UIC. Oh, yeah. Yes, let's clap, thank you. So I have to also pause and say, we use the word launch, but when I think of a visual launch, I think of a rocket ship going up to the moon, and we know it's going to collect moon rocks and take photos. We are the Kitty Hawk. We are trying to get off the ground. This is really a startup organization. And so that's a little bit challenging because we did have the former Alumni Association, but as we'll talk about tonight, a lot of that is gone or changed, or we are now doing what is right for UIC. So let's talk about that Alumni Association, and this is the picture from the launch. How do we start this? Well, we asked alumni. So hopefully many of you participated and filled out the All Alumni survey. We spent the greater part of a year reaching out, built some wonderful videos for us saying, please take the survey, please tell us what you think, please tell us what you want, because this is your alumni association. We just get the privilege of working at it every day. This is an eye chart, but it is also the infographic of the survey and what we found, what we came back to. This is online, this has been in the magazine. We can certainly send you a copy of this, but just wanted to show you we had almost 3,000 people respond. Of course, we always want more, but we were very happy with that response, and statistically it was significant. And we learned a lot. We learned a lot about what alumni, what was important, and so we tried to listen. The other thing we did, because the UIC office closed And I want to pause just for a minute to acknowledge Arlene Norsom, who is here with us this evening. Arlene ran the alumni office at UIC for 15 years. I say it with confidence. But she has been a wonderful mentor and was my former supervisor, and I had the privilege to work with Arlene for many years. And lots of years that were challenging in many ways, just working with the system and trying to figure out what it meant. As the office closed and Arlene left UIC, she retired from UIC, there was a lot of things left in a state of disarray. No communication or terrible communication. And so we needed to understand what that looked like. So we put together some founding committees. We asked some key alumni to help us engage and help us really do this roll up your sleeves, deep dive, tell us what you're hearing, let people yell at us, that's okay. We need to understand the pulse. We need to understand where people are at. So we asked these committees to really assess the current situation, help us define what success looks like, what does that mean? How can we strengthen each area? Which areas should we focus on? How do we determine what the best practices look like? And then create ultimately recommendations, and our panel will talk a little bit more about these recommendations and about their work on the founding committees. I mentioned before that we are really a startup organization, and so it's been an interesting adventure as we pulled together people, because it's not as if we had this all in place and the structure in place. It's really been a ride together where we've been building this together. So the committees were broken up into 4 different areas: awards and traditions, which I know Julio will touch upon in a little bit. Our college and unit, all of our colleges and units had alumni boards. I know we have several alumni board leaders here with us this evening. They can attest and will tell you personally how challenging it has been not having communications and information. And so we really need to do a deep dive to understand what that looked like. And then what was happening with our students as they were getting ready to graduate. How are we connecting? How weren't we connecting? What could we do different? And then how do we, from an executive committee level, look at our leadership and what the structure of the Alumni Association ultimately should be? So we have a very small but mighty team that I'm very, very proud of. They work very hard. None of them, except for me, signed up for this. And so they didn't quite know what they were getting into, so you could ask them those questions later too. But we have a couple people. Wendy, I don't know where our special events folks went. Are they in the room? They're hiding. But I'm very, very proud of the team and all of the great work that they have done. So I wanted to show you the very small but mighty and powerful team. Okay, let me turn it over to our panel so we can talk about where we're going. I hope that you feel pride in UIC. I hope that you feel the momentum that we feel on campus every day and that we get to experience. I am very, very grateful to be joined by 3 wonderful alumni tonight, and I'll ask them to give you just a little bit more about their backgrounds as they answer some questions. But let me start on your right, at the end on your right, with Julio Nolasco, who is a 2002 graduate. Among his many, many student leadership activities at UIC, Julio is a former president of the Student Alumni League. I know we have some former Student Alumni League and Student Alumni Association members here. He was the assembly speaker for the undergraduate student government. He was inducted into the Activities Honorary Society. He was a member of the Puerto Rican Student Association. He's also a former homecoming king. He didn't wear his tiara tonight, but he has one. And currently, Julio serves as the chair of our Student to Recent Alumni Engagement Committee, and he also serves on the Awards Committee. So welcome, Julio. Kristen Kepnick is a 2-time graduate of UIC. She is a doubly loyal alumna, as we like to say. She also works at UIC as the Associate Director of Engagement and Participation in the College of Applied Health Sciences. This is her 2nd time she has worked at UIC. So she has a really great knowledge base, and we've asked her to come this evening to talk about not only that she was active as a student leader, she was involved in the College of Business Alumni Board in the past, but to talk about her experience being on campus, what the vibe is like, and how it has changed a little bit in the last few years. So welcome, Kristen. And last, but certainly not least, our founding board chair, Bill Merchants, is a 1979 graduate, and it can easily be said that Bill is one of our most passionate and dedicated alumni from UIC. Bill is a former star player on UIC's men's basketball team. He also still has season tickets and attends almost every home and away basketball game that he can. He is was the first scholarship recipient for basketball at UIC. Additionally, Bill has served on both the former U of I Alumni Association Board of Directors and is currently a life member of the University of Illinois Foundation Board of Directors. I am especially grateful for all of Bill's contributions and dedication as we were building the UICAA, so please help me welcome Bill. Okay, panelists, it's all you. So Bill, let me start with you. In the spring of 2017, and as a reminder, I was hired in October of 2017, the Chancellor asked you to help build the UICAA. Can you tell us about that and why you ultimately said yes?
I'd be happy to share that story with you. As a member of the foundation board and at that time the Alumni Association board, there were changes that were occurring, and the president gave the chancellors the green light to create their own alumni associations. And the chancellor looked around and was assessing his strengths and weaknesses and looking for someone who knew the system, who knew the foundation, who knew the Alumni Association, and to him, most importantly, was an entrepreneur. So my business background is quite entrepreneurial. I started 2 or 3 different software businesses. I sold my first one in 1990. I sold the last one in 2007, and then moved on to private equity investment and assessing early stage companies and investing and helping young startups be successful. So the chancellor invited me to take on this opportunity, and that was when, in the spring of 17, right? Yeah, it took until Karen was hired, actually, in October, for me to agree to do it, because I knew how much work it was going to be. I knew how many hours it was going to take. I knew it was going to take patience that I didn't possess at that point in time, and I just kept going back to it and shaking my head, and he'd keep coming back to me and shaking his head. And if you know anything about our chancellor, Dr. Michael Emeritus, he's very persuasive, and frankly, he's a terrific leader. And we've seen over the years leaders come and leaders go, and he's a top-notch leader. And those leaders come and go, but where do we get our degrees from? Leaders come and leaders go, and I'm still here. And leaders come and leaders go, and I'm still here, and we're still here, right? And, someday those leaders will also leave, but we're still all going to be here, and we all have an affinity to the experiences that we had here. And I thought, well, if I can actually put the time and effort into it and help organize and invent something that didn't exist when I came and leave it better than when I started, well, you know what, that would be a pretty rewarding experience. So that's why I decided to do it. Thanks.
Thank you. Julio, I'm going to turn to you. Can you please tell us about your UAC experience and what it meant to you and how that led to you getting involved with our founding committees?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Good evening. So where do I begin? My story is probably the same story of a lot of our students that have come to UIC. First generation student, first to graduate from college for my whole family, and also a Pell Grant recipient. And it's like, to say this, it kind of like a little bit hurts me because I love UIC, but when I first decided to come to UIC actually was not my first choice. And maybe that's kind of how it was for a lot of people, but I actually wanted to go to U of I and do engineering, but I was actually like afraid to like leave home. So I was like, well, I'll go to UIC for a couple years, get a couple classes, everything under my belt, and in theory, it should all transfer and go downstate when I'm ready. So I came to UIC, and guess what? I can't stand the calculus classes, the pre-calc classes, basically what you're supposed to be able to love. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm here. I'm going to make the best of where I'm at. And lo and behold, once I kind of, had that little paradigm shift of it wasn't where I wanted to be, but making it like home and kind of making the best of the situation, I just started getting plugged in on campus orgs, student government, the student senate, the marketing association, anything you can think of, all while being a commuter student. And so life got really hard trying to commute and be involved. So then I ended up moving to campus. So I ended up, instead of taking a half-an-hour train ride in the morning, now I live on campus. So basically I devoted all that time to being plugged in on campus, and that's where I joined the Student Alumni League. And I had the privilege of being a student and being mentored by Arlene and Karen. So during Karen's first stint, I met her as a student while I was in Student Alumni League. And that experience working with the Alumni Association as a student and meeting alumni and understanding the importance of, it's not, you have that mentality as a student that, it's all about giving money. And, it's all for old people and all they want is my money. So, but the reality of it is that it's connection. It builds relationships. It just goes so much further and beyond that. So because I was afforded a quality education and being plugged in at UIC and being on campus and being overly involved, that kind of created a different experience for me that I was like, I'm so much better and enriched because of being at UIC and having been there. And my whole passion was, I want to make sure that current students are having the same experience that I got to have, whether, being involved in a student org or doing something fun like homecoming. I would have never thought that I would have been homecoming king, but yeah, the nerd beat out the frat guy, which, yeah, go nerds. But honestly, that's really what my passion is and why I came back, is because I just have that love for UIC and love for our city, and everybody's like, oh, it's a city college. No, actually, it's a state university in the city. So let's get that correct. And as a student, I kind of felt like I was ahead of my time with bleeding UIC red and knowing our fight song and all that other stuff. But now I love to go back to campus and see that how much further we've come, and there's a lot of room to go. And being plugged in now is we're on the ground floor, so we're building the Alumni Association the way that everybody wants it to be. So it's not status quo like how it used to be. Well, this is how we did it for 143 years. No, we get the opportunity to build it the way that we want it to work. And that's why I wanted to come back, is to make sure that what we're working on and what we're going to do is the way it should be for our campus and the way that it'll benefit our current students and all of our alumni.
Thanks, Julio.
Well done.
Maybe later you'll sing the school song for us, too.
I want him to wear the crown.
That's
Yeah, I
right,
wanna see
wearing
the
the
crown.
We have a surprise.
Have to dig those pictures.
That's right. We should have put up pictures of the student days. Sorry, I didn't think of that. Kristen, this is the second time that you have worked on campus. Can you please share with us your observations about UIC today and the current vibe around alumni relations?
Sure. I've thought a lot about what to say in response to this question, and I think as I sit here, what has changed is what you just heard. I think my experience as a student, and also when I ended up working at UIC right out of my undergrad, which it was fortunate for that opportunity, but I don't think it allowed me to appreciate the opportunity. And I think, I worked for 8 years at UIC, and then it was kind of time to see the rest of the world, so I moved on. And then, you often appreciate things after they're no longer in your life. So about 2 years ago, I started to think maybe I was still working in higher ed, thinking maybe I'd try to find another position on campus. And then I had the opportunity to attend the Ignite event, which we talked about before, and you saw the photo of the lighting of the flame. And it was very apparent at that event that a lot had changed on campus. So the energy and enthusiasm, obviously it was an exciting event. We were launching something new, both the campaign and the Alumni Association. But that really, I felt like that night I was like, okay, I'm going to really take this job hunt seriously. And the pleasant surprise was that that energy is evident on campus, I think, every day. Walking around campus, previously I never saw people wearing UIC gear or, getting as involved as I see now. So I think that all comes from our leadership, both the chancellor, Karen, Bill. I think, I always feel working with alumni that you can't create a good experience as a student, but we can create those positive student experiences, and then it's natural for people to want to stay engaged and involved as alumni. So luckily, a lot of people did have great experience as students. But I think now I think there's a lot more of a seamless kind of transition from being engaged on campus. And a lot of things have changed. I don't think UIC is quite the commuter school that it was, but I was a commuter student, and I think there were still those opportunities to be engaged, but a lot has changed. And so the opportunity even for current students to get involved with alumni is being built up. And I think just that pride and leadership are the two big changes.
Great, thank you. And I hear some city noises in the background, so so yay, thanks, Kristen. So Julio, I'm going to turn back to you to ask about the founding committee.
My kind of story going back to kind of to cover what Kristen said is once I graduated, kind of you leave and you kind of go your own way, and I kind of stayed plugged in as an alumni here and there, but then kind of fell away. Really wasn't back to campus for many, many, many years, and luckily Karen and I, they created Facebook, and I was able to keep in touch with Karen even though she was gone. And she had announced that she was coming back. They were doing Ignite, and I sent her a DM, I think, almost immediately said, whatever you want me to do, I am there, because I want to plug back in, and I want to help out wherever we're at because of the opportunities. So here we are. I'm on 2 committees, and the one committee that I'm on is the Awards and Traditions Committee, and I'm not sure if anybody's here from that committee or not. I'm not the chair of it, but I serve on it, and Cal, our chair, has been really instrumental in building this committee. So we had basically no structure with it. And the whole point of the Awards and Traditions Committee is basically we work to acknowledge all of our alumni. So all of you guys, we want to recognize you for your outstanding achievements, whatever it is that you guys are working on in your career fields. We want to know, we want to recognize you because what you're doing is important, and also can basically kind of mentor those that are kind of up and coming. They can look to you as an example of what they can achieve themselves. So with the help of Cal, we put a process into place. We have had our first awards ceremony last October, and we recognized some very awesome people. And the joke with the committee is, we read these nominations from people, and you're like, oh man, what am I doing with my life? These people are, this guy is in, he's in Africa, and he's helping the poor, and he's, digging wells, and I'm, just driving to work every day, sipping my, Dunkin' Donuts or whatever. But not to diminish that, but basically, so that's what our first committee is, and the Awards and Traditions Committee, and, a lot of you know people that are doing outstanding things, but we don't know them. So, that's I'm segueing into something a future that we're going to talk about, but, that's kind of a way to kind of get plugged in, is to help us recognize those that you know, because we can't possibly know everybody, but everybody knows somebody. So that's our first committee. The second committee that I'm on is the Student to Recent Alumni Engagement Committee. Got that right. The joke with that is that every week it seemed like we had a different name. Every time we met, our committee had a different name because we were still trying to find ourselves. We were still trying to define what our role was on the UICAA. And so I actually have been privileged enough to chair that committee since October of 17, maybe January-ish of 18. And basically, this committee is basically where my passion is for UIC, is building the relationships with our current students, and as they are on campus engaging them, so that when they graduate and become alumni, that they remember what they had, kind of like what you said, that I personally didn't realize what I had until I left campus and moved on. And our problem we discovered was we're trying to engage students as they're filling out their graduation paperwork, and by then it's too late. We want to engage them from day one. So under that premise is we created some events that actually never existed before. One of them was the freshman convocation event, and that one actually already existed, but we didn't have a speaker at it. So we decided to bring in a recent graduate to kind of encourage and mentor all these brand new wide-eyed freshmen that are coming in. And you guys all remember coming in and being like, oh my gosh, And so I think it was an awesome success. We've been invited to come back again and kind of encourage them. And we've also come up with some recent alumni events. So everybody asks, what's a recent alumni? So basically, it's somebody who's graduated within the last 10 years. And we had Spirits with Sparky last September at Ace Bounce House. And we had about 60 people, former students attend, and that was a fun time. And then 2 weeks ago, we had a recent alumni happy hour at Punch Bowl Social in West Loop in Fulton Market. And I think, 120 recent alumni came, and it was a fantastic networking event. I mean, there's tacos. You can't go wrong when there's tacos. But basically, our goal, though, is to just raise the visibility of the Alumni Association on campus, engage them right on, but not also recent alumni, but alumni that are past. I always joke that I've aged out because I graduated in 2002, so I'm 17 years out, so I'm not recent anymore. But former students, alumni, bring them back too. So let's create events that'll draw them back. Homecoming. What can we do to just kind of bring people back, keep them plugged in, find ways for everybody to volunteer in their own way, not necessarily, if you're not a person that does committee work, maybe you like to be a mentor, maybe you like to do whatever. So that's kind of like what we're working on, trying to find new ways to engage students and engage alumni and bring them back to campus and kind of pay it forward, so to speak. So I had the privilege of having an awesome experience. Now I'm going to pay it forward and try to help the next generation of students have that great experience so that they can put it forward to next generation students.
Thanks, Julio.
You're welcome.
I also want to point out that Jim Droziak is with us this evening, and he is the chair of the College and Unit Committee. So I know that we have several college leaders here with us this evening. So go see Jim and ask questions specifically about that committee if you would like, or any of us, of course. But so thank you to you, Jim, and to all our other founding committee members that are here with us this evening. Okay, Bill. So we've been working together for a little while now, and I'm very grateful for all of your time, dedication, and support. As Bill said, this was not a small task to take on. We have the recommendations from our founding committees. We have listened to alumni, both through the survey and in person. So can you please share with us what's next for the UICAA?
Do I have slides?
You have slides, and he has slides.
All right. If you've heard me speak before, you know that I try and differentiate between the sausage making and the sausage selling. Wendy's laughing. When we bring the alumni together, we're really supposed to be selling the sausage, right? Like we did at the kickoff of the Ignite campaign. We were selling, but we didn't really have any sausage. But we were selling. So it's taken 18 months or so to take an inventory and really dig into what the operating issues were. Take inventory of where the college units were, what was going on with the awards programs. After very, very little, no offense to Arlene, of course, but with very little investment over 50 years in the Alumni Association for UICC or UIC, we had to make a decision where we were going to organize and where we were going to invest. And I led the conversation that, you know, when you have kind of zero mind share of people that you've let go for 20 years and you really haven't reached out to them and you haven't organized much around them as a university, as a UIC, it'll cost a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of staff to actually go after and try and win those people back. However, if we have people like Julio who are focused on the students that are right now either on campus and who have been recently left campus, our recent grads, we probably have a greater probability of success of winning them and keeping them and getting them engaged in an organization. So at the risk of sounding like a benevolent dictator, which is I only had a couple of requirements, terms that I negotiated with the chancellor. And one was to be a benevolent dictator for about 18 months or so. We all knew, we all felt we didn't want to create another UIAA the way it was organized in its somewhat siloed structure. What we really wanted to do was put together an organization that would be an overlay, that would complement and overlay the entire university, all the pieces of the university that the chancellor has organized under his cabinet. So if you look at this is a kind of a bubble solution to all of we grouped together all the issues that were important in building an alumni association, a modern alumni association. And I'm just really using this to show you that we weren't just kind of making up as we went along, and we didn't just kind of willy-nilly it. There was a lot of work in digging into and understanding what worked, what didn't work, what could work, in trying to organize and build an organization that really is about alumni interacting with professors, faculty, staff, coaches in a very meaningful way. And it's all about the bottom up. So it's all about the students interacting with faculty, and then it's to carry forward to have alumni being able to interact and participate in all the different colleges. And I call it more of a groundswell, a bottom-up organization. But at the top, you really have to have buy-in from the chancellor and his cabinet, and then all the deans, throughout the whole organization. And this organization is one that I think we can accomplish. We can accomplish all of that. So I won't go into all the details under here, but the next slide is about our strategy. And of course, we have all these amazing numbers, 260 or 70,000 alumni. Are they addressable? Can we contact them? I mean, that's a daunting task. So then we started looking at, well, what about the newest alumni that we have? Are we in touch with them? Well, no, we turn their emails off after 30 days after they graduate. So, where's their forwarding address? Well, we don't keep their forwarding address. We don't ask them for a forwarding address. And, this is where we were, right? So it's to focus on, stop the losing. Let's keep contact with our immediate students and alumni and kind of build it that way. There's something up here about a 501c3. If you're into taxes or charitable giving, there are some revenue streams that the government likes because they get 40% tax on those, right? So legally, technically, if I go into the bookstore and I buy a nice UIC sweatshirt, legally they're supposed to pay 40% tax on that purchase under UBIT. But there are loyalty programs like travel programs, credit card programs, insurance programs that the UIAA had offered, but really didn't integrate them into UIC. Well, we have the opportunity to take all of those in-house and run all of those exclusively for the benefit of UIC going forward. The next one is as we developed the founding committees, which are, go to the next one. So this committee structure is really about, these are the founding committees, 3 plus 2, I think, are up there. So Julio talked about the awards and traditions and about the college units a little bit and the recent alumni engagement. You will see us also now investing in outreach and in career services as additional committees. So we're looking for people who either have that experience or have that interest in participating. So we're recruiting right now, looking for alumni to come in and help with us. When you take a look at everything that's going on here, a bottom-up approach, you need the support from the chancellor's office, his cabinet, the deans. What we really have going on here is a huge behavioral change in updating the culture at UIC. And you know, that doesn't happen overnight. That's going to take some time. But we need the patience. We need to have the focus, and I think we do with this staff, but we need to have the patience to know that it's going to take, 10 years of 6,000 students graduating. Boy, that's 60,000. That's my target. That's what I'm after. If we could have a good percentage of those 60,000 participating 10 years from now. I think that our next step here with these with this operating board in running these committees is going to be very important. Above that, go back one. Above that there is a structure. There's a small executive committee that I pulled together to really run all of those committees. Ed Cohen, many of you have worked with or participated or volunteered with Ed on the CAB in the past. Ed has agreed to step up and really be the leader, volunteer leader for all these committees. We're going to have an advocacy role, and I've talked with Peter Scosi. He was the advocacy leader at the UIAA for UIC, so he's willing to step up and help us out and lead advocacy. We're recruiting right now for a loyalty chair. So we're looking for an alumnus or alumna that have experience in this travel industry, credit card industry, somebody who has, really good, deep experience in understanding how these programs run. I've recruited a legal chair because we intend to create our own 501c3 as a standalone charitable organization solely for the purpose of benefiting UIC. Have no staff, and all the staff are university employees. It's a big change from how the UIAA used to work. And then we'll have a leadership chair. So this executive board will help staff oversee and organize an operating board, which Ed Cohen is responsible for. And the leadership person will help us recruit and staff a leadership board. And what we're looking for are people who are prominent in their industries, having flowed through their colleges, who are influential, who will be terrific UIC ambassadors, who are looking for a relationship and an interaction with UIC at an executive level that there's a clear value proposition for them to get engaged and spend a couple of years being very active in promoting UIC. And we're developing that leadership board right now. I guess the last piece of this is that I've asked and have had acceptance from many of our past executives at UIC. So Barbara Henley has agreed to be an advisor of mine as an example in student affairs. and I've got 3 or 4 others that have already agreed to advise the chair on how UIC works without really having to go into the current staff. The need there is we will then find all of those, Michael's executives will give us somebody to work with as an advisor. So the whole idea here is to create an overlap organization that won't duplicate any headcount and won't duplicate any spending, but will complement everything that the chancellor has going on the UIC campus. And it will all be driven by, and we'll organize and reward the participation of alumni with faculty, staff, and coaches as we go forward. So that's, I think that's all I have to say, and we'll get to Q&A later.
Great, thank you so much, Bill. So this is really my last question, then we can turn to Q&A. So Bill has just shared the plan of where we're going. For each of you, can you share with us a couple of thoughts on how you think alumni in this room can help us get there, and why you may recommend them getting involved? Julio, we'll start with you because you made that face.
Gosh, that's such a loaded question because there's so many ways to be involved. You can be involved a little bit, you can be involved a lot. Simple things like I have a UIC pen that I have at work, and I always tell people, if you take it, I know you took it because this is the only UIC pen here. But everybody knows I'm involved in UIC. Wearing logo wear, UIC, I have a UIC sweatshirt, 2 hoodies or whatever, coming to the game, whatever. There's many volunteer opportunities. If you're passionate like me about, getting students involved, you can volunteer on that committee. There's a committee for everything, whatever you're passionate about. Maybe you're not a committee person. Maybe you are a talker, you like to talk. We have, one of the things we were talking about is connecting our students with people of certain fields and maybe having them be a mentor-mentee relationship. Maybe that's something that you want to do. We're still in the developing plans, but maybe you're the type of person, you just have tons of ideas. Right now you're sitting here and your brain is, everything's cranking out and you have all sorts of ideas. That's a way to volunteer too. So basically, whatever you're passionate about, there is a way to volunteer and be involved in it. Coming to events on campus, a basketball game, just coming and showing support. However you want to be engaged, I think there's a way for you to do it, and just come and ask us, and there's definitely a way to be plugged in if that's what you want to do.
Thank you. Kristen?
Well, I'll give a plug for, I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but there are a lot of opportunities at the UICAA level, but the colleges also have specific opportunities. So there's somebody with a role like mine in every one of the colleges. So if you want to do something more specific to your professional field, or you really specifically want to work with business students or CADA students or engineering students, I would encourage you to find out who your college's person is and get in touch with them, because we're all working in coordination with Karen's team, but also on the ground in our own colleges, really specifically looking at what our students need, and we want to also serve the alumni. So, if you want to connect with students, definitely get in touch with your college's person. But also, I'm been here back a year. Some of the people in this roles have been here longer and probably have a little more roadmap, but I'm still really interested in hearing what the alumni want. So that's the other benefit to being involved. You can kind of help steer the bus. And then I think the other thing that is really helpful to us is sharing your awesome news and accomplishments so that we can spread the word, because that also helps elevate the college's profiles, UIC's profiles, all of your profiles. So help us help you. And just keep connected, even if it's just dropping an email or making a phone call.
Thank you. As Kristen mentioned, she has many colleagues across UIC that also spend part of their job, not usually their whole job, doing
Right.
alumni relations. And we're very grateful for them. We really rely on their partnership, and they are really part of our team. So thank you for that.
Well, we're grateful for you guys too.
See, we love
So
each other.
it's nice. We all have our own kind of initiatives, but then we are coordinated at the university level to some respect. So
Which has been a change. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been quite a change, which has been great. So thank you for your partnership. Bill?
Yeah, I think we all have to have realistic expectations. When that chart with the balloons and the staff was up there was one person up there 18 months ago, and now there are probably 6 people on this team. And I've tried to impress upon the chancellor that, look, we can have all the good ideas in the world and we can make all the promises in the world, but if we don't have staff, because we're not, well, you're staff, but Julio and I aren't working here every day. If we don't have staff to actually catch the inquiries and catch the requests, and if we don't get organized the right way and make the right investments, look, it won't be as successful. So we just hired a new vice chancellor for advancement. And advancement now, one of the big differences here, advancement is the combination of donor relations, alumni relations, and then the communications that to those that kind of tie it all together. That person will start in August, I think. So not on board yet, but Tom Wamsley has terrific experience coming from the University of Michigan, and they have they've got quite an alumni organization association there. So he has experience working, actually leading, I think, advancement at the Ross School at Michigan, of working this and balancing these resources. And I think that's key, that's strategic, and we really look forward to having Tom come in. But we have to have realistic expectations, so don't get frustrated. Don't think that, if somebody isn't following up with you right away, that we're not interested. There's a very, very small team of people that are working, day in, day out here at the staff, and they're working crazy hours, and I've been in there with them, and I support everything that they're doing. So we need to have realistic expectations of how much we can actually accomplish until staff grows.
Thank you, and
Hey,
thank you
Karen.
for that. Oh, please.
Can I add one more thing? I know I've spoken a lot today. One thing that we can all do, and it's free, and I feel like everybody in this room wouldn't be here if they didn't have some type of passion or feel a certain kind of way towards UIC, is just spreading the good word about UIC. And just telling people, I went to UIC, this was my experience. I had a coworker whose daughter she graduated high school and didn't know where to go. And she came to work and I'm like, hey, well, did you think about UIC? And she was like, no, I didn't. And I actually brought her to a campus tour just because I love UIC and I wanted her to have that same experience. So just stuff like that. It's very simple. You can do that from the comfort of your own home, email, Facebook, whatever. So it's very easy to promote and get involved, even if it's just like that. So
Thank
wanna
you.
encourage
I
them.
actually wrote down spread the good word, so that's
Oh.
perfect timing. So thank you for that. We're going to turn it to Q&A, and I'm going to ask Wendy if you have questions or if you need cards to write down any questions, please do so and pass them to her. I wanted to mention, and when we go down to the reception afterwards, we have UIC alumni pins. I think Julio is wearing one, and we also have these red circle pins. If you are not familiar, this pin was designed, and it is all over campus now, the branding image, paying respect to the Circle campus. So when you see the UIC Circle logo, this is why we are paying respect to the UIC Circle campus, which I know many people will say I graduated from Circle. So there you go. We see it every day, and we respect and honor that history. Thank you to our panelists as we're going to go into questions. That doesn't mean I'm not going to direct the questions at you. But as Wendy brings up, and you can certainly ask more and add more on. And do I have to put on glasses? Okay. So the question is, and not surprised by this question, so I'm going to turn this to Bill. I am a paid life member of the University of Illinois Alumni Association. What does that mean, and what am I getting for it? And there's 2 parts to this question, so I'm going to start there. Or do you want? Let me keep reading. With a no-pay membership, because we do not have a membership program with the UICAA, what does the status of my paid UIAA membership mean? So two-part question.
Well, what's the value proposition? I think the value proposition for life members, and by the way, I'm a life member.
I'm a life member.
I'm a life member.
Who else
We
is
have
a life member?
John, are you a life member?
So thank
Who's
you
a
for your
life member?
loyalty.
How many life members out there?
Right.
Okay.
So thank
I
you
have
for
a-
your loyalty.
I have a gold UIC card with a big orange eye on it.
Oh, no.
We no longer have those available in case you're interested.
79. Okay, 79. Okay. Look, we have the information that I have when I was on the board at the Alumni Association. We have about 13,000 life members that were signed up before the membership program, before the university asked us to end a for-pay membership program or a fee-based membership program. And there is an amount of money that is yet to be determined, it has to be audited, that the UIAA currently has, that I think should be tied to those life memberships. And so we don't know exactly what the numbers are, but we're going through a process, we're gonna evaluate that, and there will be an audit on that. If there is anything left in the life membership endowment, that'll simply be transferred over to the foundation on account for the UIAA or UICAA. So the Alumni Association here at UIC will get the benefit of those funds. Typically, those funds were not supposed to be spent, but the interest or the earnings off of those funds could have been spent for programs. And that's the way that it works. What do you get for that? Well, personally, you probably get to participate and interact with your colleges or your majors' alumni team. I'd encourage you to do that. I think we have access to the rec center down here for alumni. We have access to the library for alumni.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I hope I answered your question.
Yes. Good. Great. Kristen, I'm going to ask you to answer this question. So, how do you plan to work with colleges that are independently doing their own thing with paid staff?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So, I think what the question is saying is how do we work with the colleges to make sure that there's a synergy
You as the
between
Alumni
as
Association.
the Alumni Association, and how do we work together currently to make sure there's not duplication efforts and that we are not stepping on each other's toes and we're not over communicating to alumni or over inviting or over asking?
Yeah, so as we kind of alluded to before, there's a very different scenario in each of the colleges. Applied Health Sciences, my role was vacant for 8 years. I am one person. 50% of my job is alumni relations. Some of the other colleges have much more developed plans and programs in place. But as far as coordination goes, I think that's one benefit of having slim staffing. There's not a lot of duplication of efforts because we're all doing everything we can. But we meet on a monthly basis with Wendy and Karen and communicate about the different things that are going on in our colleges. They are very communicative about the programs they're planning, and often we collaborate. We have the Health Sciences Alumni event coming up next month. We've all been involved in having input in that and helping promote it. So I would say it's pretty coordinated, and I don't know that it's by any great systematic means, but just the fact that most people in these roles like to communicate, and they're very good about sharing what they have going on. So I feel like it's coordinated. I haven't known of any duplication. We're all doing as much as we can. So I think that'll be a good day when there's a problem of duplicating efforts.
We try actually hard to over-communicate
Yeah.
and have these monthly staff meetings, and we try hard to overshare because as we build the organization, we want to be transparent, and Bill talked about this. We want to be very transparent, and we need our key partners in the colleges and across the units to really help us build together. And frankly, we expect them to turn around and say, hold on, we don't agree. What's going on here? If there's things that we missed up. So it's important that we have that partnership.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, I really view them as a resource. So a lot of times I'll have an idea, something that I think might be of value to our alumni, and I can get in touch with Wendy and find out if other colleges have done something similar, or if there's something that they might be able to help amplify our efforts. So I think that it's really nice to have, I don't have to call 15 other people in each college. I can communicate with the central team.
Great. So thank you for all of these wonderful questions. We've gotten quite a few, so I'm going to do 2 more just in interest of time. I never want to be the person standing between you and, good appetizers and things like that. So we will still respond to all of the questions, and as I mentioned, there's founding committee members here and our staff is here, so we're happy to continue to engage. But I also do want to be sensitive to your time, and I want to make sure you have time to network. While this classroom space is beautiful, it doesn't allow for the kind of networking that downstairs will. So let me ask 2 more questions, and I don't know who wants this. Maybe you're going to say me. The recent graduates might have a very different value proposition with the university. Considering quality versus quantity, is there a strategy to identify the special desires of the special group?
Can you repeat the question?
So essentially, I believe the question is saying that the recent graduates probably have a different value proposition of why they'd want to stay engaged and stay involved and continue to care. Is there a strategy for us to engage differently with the recent graduates versus the Masters alumni body? And I would actually say it's not just recent graduates. We look at the different decades and experiences. If I talked to 5 of you in this room, you would tell me very different experiences about your time at UIC, depending on what college you went to, depending on what time you went to school at UIC, what you even called UIC at the time. So we do try and segment.
I'll try to field this one. I'm not sure, how many of you in this room actually participated in the survey? Okay, so everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, thank you so much. Now, I didn't read all 200 pages of the results.
Wendy did, you can ask her.
But what I do know is exactly kind of like what Karen was saying, is that we're kind of building from the ground up, and that survey was kind of like the foundation of what we wanted to achieve when we launched the UICAA. And one of it is, like Karen said, maybe if you graduated back when it was Circle, you want your alumni association to work in a certain way for you. If you graduated, when it was the East Side versus the West Side, and that you want it to work differently for you. But our committee, what we've been doing with these recent alumni events, it's not just, hey, let's get together and have a good time, but we're bringing them together, we're networking with them, and then we're engaging them to say, what can we do? What do you want to do? And I think every time we have an event like this, that's also kind of like the goal, is to see, what do you guys want us to do? What can we do to help you? What can we do to serve you? And in the process, serve your former classmates. So I think that it's kind of tough, because we have how many alumni?
265,000.
And you're not going to please everybody, but you can try to work towards finding the compromise for each group, each generation, and build it that way, so that there is something in it for everybody. I guess that's the way to say it.
So let me add also that from the survey, we did hear, I think across the board, that alumni really want to be connected to or relate to or have an affinity with their college and or their major as a secondary, right, Wendy? Yeah. Okay. So that's loud and clear. We tried to run an event. When was the last event we tried to run? On campus at 5:30 on a Thursday.
Oh, February.
In February, okay?
See why it's been rescheduled to this evening.
which is what we're doing right now, and the response was tepid. Okay, so the staff was like, "Oh my God, we've only got 4 people signed up. What are we gonna do?" I said, "But there's no coin. What do you mean? What are we gonna do? We're gonna cancel it." And what we're going to do is we have to organize to take the Alumni Association out to the people where they want to congregate, right? So we need to bring the Alumni Association to Schaumburg and to Dalton and to Oak Brook, where you want it, right? Not where I want it. I don't care where. But the point is, we're not going to run this thing. We're not going to invest that where you all have to always come into the city at 5:30 when the Eisenhower is under construction and there's a turnover on the Dan Ryan and, you know, the president came into town and the Kennedy is shut down, right? We can't operate that way. So if you look at the different operating committees, the next two coming, one is career and networking, right? Yes. And what's the fifth one?
Outreach and alumni engagement, so Chicago.
So that's the area. That's our area, and then regional outreach. So we just ran an event in Washington, D.C. We had about 100 people in Washington. The second event we ran in Washington, D.C. And that's without even John Marshall really being fully engaged on board with us yet. So we need to bring the Alumni Association out, and then therefore we need to bring who you want to hear. If you want to hear the chancellor, if you want to hear the head basketball coach, if you want to hear the softball coach's success story. Our baseball team, by the way, is in the NCAAs this weekend. If you want to, if you want to watch some games, they're going down to Louisville, and they, they have a chance. They're down there with Illinois State and Louisville, and the fourth team is also from Illinois. Anyway, we need to bring it out to you. So that's my reply on how are we balancing, the 20-year alumni and what their needs are and what they think their value proposition is versus the recent alumni and what their needs are. So.
Thank you. And if I could compliment and to the committees, I am very grateful because we have received a ton of support from our chancellor. And if you have not had the opportunity to talk with him or hear him talk yet, we will make that happen. He's an incredible and inspiring leader, extremely visionary, and he is an incredible reason why UAC has changed the way it has in such a positive way. He has been supportive for us on the staff side, so I'm very pleased to share with you that we just hired a new associate director who is in charge of our student to recent alumni engagement. Emily Ann, are you here? Yes, Emily Ann's in the back, so please stand. And so this is her third week. So welcome, Emily Ann. We're very excited to have her join our engagement team, and we are in the final stages of hiring a director of alumni career services. You may be aware there used to be an alumni career office under the old model. That was something else we heard from the survey very, very clearly, that alumni want career services. It is just one person, but we're very excited about the finalists, and hopefully that announcement will come out shortly. I've just hired somebody that will focus specifically on Chicago area. As many of you know, the majority of our alumni live in the Chicagoland and within the state of Illinois, but specifically in the Chicagoland area. So we've just hired somebody that will start on June 16th to come and lead our efforts looking at this exactly to complement how do we segment and how do we market differently. So,
and let me add, look, the way to do it is not in a silo, ignorant of what's going on in student affairs or ignorant of what's happening in the colleges. We partnered with career services.
Yes. Oh, yes. All of them. All the career services.
Confirm this stuff.
Yes.
Right?
All the career services in the different colleges.
But we partner with them, so and they're willing, to actually see how they can extend their services out a little bit further, for recent alumni, a little bit further than they currently are able to do. Right. So it's not doing anything to fight with what's going on there. It's a partnership. It's an overlay so that we can integrate alumni into what's happening at UIC, right? So, and that's the strategy.
And that is a key. Thank you for mentioning that, because that is a key piece of the strategy that we are working in tandem and in partnership. And career services, and there's a couple of colleges that have their own career services offices, have been instrumental in the search and helping us find people, but also as we move forward. And for those of you that talked to Emily Ann at the reception, she'll tell you the folks she's already met with student affairs in just the 2.5 weeks she's been here, because we know how important that is for her to establish those relationships and work together. So real quickly, last question is about awards. The question is, will there be plans to highlight accomplished alumni on the campus or on the UICAA website? So if nobody wants this, I can take this. So the awards program, Julio briefly mentioned this, and we do have a few folks here that are on the awards committee and can talk a little about that process. It really was building from ground up. As Bill also talked about the advancement model, I call us the new branch of advancement. So it's changing the business model. It's changing how we represent ourselves online, how we communicate out. I hope that you have received, just this January, we launched a UIC AA newsletter, which may not sound like a big deal in this day and age, but it was. It was a lot of work for us to get that up and running and to get that into a cadence. I am always looking for feedback, so if you don't like it, if it's too long, you hate the colors, tell me. This is the only way we're gonna know. If you delete it right away, I'd like to know that too, and tell me why. So we are working. In awards, there is a lot of room for us to grow. Under the former Alumni Association, there were 12 award categories that existed at UIC. We just had nominations for 4 award categories, so we have a whole group of 8 that we haven't even touched yet to really understand what that space looks like. We have done an audit on the colleges because we do not want to duplicate the work they're doing. We want to make sure that we are complementing the work they're doing. So that committee has a lot of room to grow for us to figure out how do we continue to acknowledge our accomplished alumni. We did also launch a class notes section when the magazine changed, which is a different conversation. But when the magazine changed, we lost class notes, but it is all online now. So we encourage you to submit class notes. They are updated on a daily basis, and so please tell us what you're doing. And that can be life changes, that can be career changes, that can be whatever you want to tell us, we want to hear. So we are working on it, and again, welcome your thoughts and suggestions around that. So again, I want to be sensitive to time because you will all now go to the elevators and go down to the first floor. So I want to thank our panelists for all of their time and their dedication. But Julio, actually, I think all 3 panelists mentioned the word passion, and whenever we hire somebody at UIC, that is the word we come back to. You cannot teach passion. You either have it or you do not. We are all passionate within the Alumni Association to make this grow and to move forward, but we need your passion. We need to hear your thoughts and ideas. Just by being here tonight, you really have shown us that you are dedicated and passionate, and we're very grateful, so keep the conversation going. And I don't mean just tonight. Keep it going, keep it going. Help spread the good word, take pins, give the pins away. We'll give you more. But thank you again for being here, and please do join us on the first floor for the reception. Thank you to our folks online. We're grateful for you joining us at the comfort of your home or wherever. And thanks to all of you. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.